Welcome to Year 1. I'm Miles.
And I'm Grant, and today we're doing something a little different.
Yeah, two founders, one decision, completely opposite outcomes.
Same email, different words.
Right, so the cold open you just heard or are about to hear, that's both of them. One got into S26, one didn't, and we kept the raw reactions.
And here's why that matters. The W26 batch, according to Gary Tan, had 14 companies hit $1 million in ARR before demo day, highest ever. 3 times the number from the batch before it.
Rebel Fund's algorithm scored 35% of W26 startups in the top 20% of all YC companies ever evaluated. No previous batch came close.
So the bar going into S26 is not the same bar it was 2 years ago. That's the context.
And over 30,000 applications are competing for what is roughly a 1.5 to 2% acceptance rate.
Which means the question isn't just whether you got in, it's what the decision reveals about you.
So here's where it gets interesting. The accepted founder reverse engineered what YC actually looks for, deliberately. The rejected founder spent her final 6 weeks rewriting her bio.
Yeah, we'll dig into what that gap actually tells you about self-awareness under pressure.
We've also got a YC partner breaking down the 2 signals that move an application from interesting to interview. Grant's going to push on exactly how both founders measured up.
I've seen this play out. The math on why one application works and another doesn't is almost never what founders think.
And we end on a clock. One founder has 14 weeks and $500,000. The other has about 90 days before the next deadline and no plan.
All right, let's get into it.
Here's the cold open. I just kept refreshing. Literally, I could not stop. My co-founder was asleep. It was 2 a.m, and I thought, if it says yes, I'm calling him right now. I don't care.
And?
It said yes, and I did call him. He picked up immediately. Neither of us said anything for probably 15 seconds.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
The other founder we spoke to didn't get that call.
No.
She described checking the email in a Starbucks because she didn't want to be home alone when it came, and it said no.
And what did she do?
She said she sat there for an hour, didn't order anything, just sat.
Yeah.
And then she walked back to her apartment and started rewriting her application for the next batch.
The same day?
Same day.
Okay, I want to hold both of those for a second because that contrast is kind of the whole show, but let's just put a number on what we're talking about. Over 30,000 applications went in for S26.
Right. And according to YC Combinator's own application page, they fund roughly 1.5 to 2% of applicants per batch. So out of those 30,000 founders, we're talking maybe 200 companies that got a yes.
S26 runs July through September in San Francisco. Demo day is September 10th. That's the finish line these founders are now sprinting towards.
And the one who didn't get in, she's got a different clock running.
The next batch opens. She reapplies. But the world keeps moving in the meantime.
That's the part nobody really talks about, right? It's not just the yes or the no.
Yeah.
It's what the next 90 days look like for each of them.
So here's where it gets interesting. W26, the batch that just finished, was by a lot of measures the strongest in YC's history. According to Gary Tan, 14 out of nearly 200 startups hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue before demo day, the most ever.
That's the bar S26 founders were measured against when they applied.
And that bar changes what getting in actually means now. So here's the question I keep coming back to. What did those 2 founders actually have or not have that put one of them in a Starbucks alone at noon and the other one on the phone at 2 a.m? So here's where the W26 numbers stop being abstract. According to Gary Tan's own post, 14 companies hit 1 million ARR before demo day. Historically, that's been 3, maybe 5 per batch, 3 times as many as W25.
That's the part I keep coming back to. Not that one outlier did it, but that 14 did.
Right. And then Rebel Fund, which has been running a machine learning algorithm against every WC batch since 2013, published something before a single company even presented. 35% of W26 startups scored in the top 20% of all WC companies ever evaluated. No previous batch was close.
That's a genuinely weird number. Statistically, that shouldn't be possible if the distribution held.
That's the exact thing. Their algorithm showed the entire curve shifted right, not just the top end. The 25th percentile improved. The 50th improved. Fewer predicted zombies across the board.
Okay, but I want to push on this. Does a record batch raise or lower the signal value of getting in? If the bar is higher, does the acceptance itself mean less?
I think it means more, not less, because WC still only took roughly 1 to 2% of applicants. 30,000 people applied for S26, same pool size. What changed is who got through that filter.
So the signal is stronger because the comparison set got harder.
Exactly, and you can feel that in the traction numbers. Lobster Cap's Demo Day recap noted one company walked in at 27 million ARR. Another had 175 million in letters of intent. Those aren't Demo Day numbers, those are Series B numbers.
I mean, 175 million in letters of intent at seed. The math doesn't quite work at that stage, but the signal absolutely does.
Yeah, and the composition matters too. The batch was 88% AI first, 64% B2B. Consumer barely registered at around 5%. These weren't lifestyle ops or consumer experiments. The companies were going after hard technical problems with paying customers already in the door.
So what does that actually mean for an S26 founder sitting in July, like concretely?
Measured. It means 100K ARR used to put you in the conversation. According to the tremendous piece on W26 Traction, Gary Tan said hitting 100K ARR used to mean you were one of the top companies. Not anymore. The floor moved.
Right, and the founders applying to S26 know that. They watched W26 Demo Day. They saw what shipped.
Which is why what our two founders actually did in the 6 weeks before the S26 deadline matters so much. One of them got through. One of them didn't. And that gap probably doesn't look like what either of them expected.
Let's hear it from them.
So here's the part I actually wanted to get to. The founder who got in, I asked him point blank, what do you think pushed you over the line?
And?
He had an answer ready. Very clean, very confident. But the more I pressed, the more I realized he was pattern matching backwards, assembling a story from the outcome.
Yeah, I've seen that 100 times. Someone gets the good news and suddenly everything they did looks like a deliberate move.
Exactly. So I pushed him on the co-founder pairing specifically. Why these two people? Why not go alone or wait for a different partner?
What'd he say?
He talked about complementary skills, the usual. Then he paused and he said something more honest. He said, I think we just trusted each other under pressure, and that probably read on paper.
Adjusting each other under pressure. That's actually a real answer.
Right? That's the one I believed.
My conversation was messier. The founder who got rejected, she had a theory about where the application broke down. Very organized. Team section, market section, traction section.
She'd already done the postmortem.
Yeah. But she kept landing on the traction number like it was the whole story. We only have 40 users, so.
And you didn't buy that.
I didn't push back on the number. I pushed back on what she was avoiding, because 40 users can be enough if the story around them is clear. Letters of intent, a wait list that converted unusually well, something. She had some of that. She just didn't put it in.
So the application undersold the actual traction.
Or she didn't believe the traction was real enough to lean into, which is a different problem.
Founders do that. They discount their own evidence because they know all the caveats.
And YC doesn't fill in the blanks for you. If you don't make the case, they move on.
So we asked both of them the same question. What did you do in the 6 weeks before the deadline that you wouldn't have done otherwise?
That one landed differently for each of them.
The guy who got in said he shipped 2 features specifically so he'd have something concrete to point to in the application, not because users asked for them, because he needed a proof of velocity story.
He reverse engineered the narrative.
Consciously, he admitted it without hesitation.
The founder who got rejected, she said she rewrote the founder bio section 4 times. 4 times.
Not the product section, not the traction section.
The bio. And you know what? I didn't say anything. I just let that sit.
That silence tells you everything about where her head was.
She knew it too. She said it, and then she stopped talking.
So one founder built towards the application, the other wrote towards it.
2 very different clocks running from this point forward.
Yeah. One's heading into YC with Demo Day on the calendar. The other's got YC27 applications opening this summer and a lot of ground to cover. A YC partner is going to tell us exactly which gaps she'll need to close and whether either of these founders actually understood what moved the needle. That's next. So what does a YC partner actually look for when the bar is this high? I put that to someone who's been reading applications for several batches now. The first question I asked was simple. What moves an application from interesting to interview? And what do they say? Two things. One is momentum you can't fake. Not just revenue or users, but the shape of the curve. Are things accelerating or flattening? They can read that in about 30 seconds. So here's where it gets interesting, because that's exactly the gap we kept circling back to in that second interview.
Right. The rejected founder had real traction. She just didn't show the curve. She showed a snapshot.
A number without a story behind it.
Exactly. And the second thing the partner said, and this is the part that stuck with me, was founder problem fit. Not just domain knowledge, specifically, why can you not walk away from this?
Which is a harder question than it sounds.
Way harder, because you can learn an industry, you can hire domain experts. What you can't manufacture is the thing that keeps you in the building at 2 a.m. when it's not working.
Did they address the W26 profile? Because according to Extract AI's breakdown, the average W26 founder had 5.8 years of professional experience, down from about 9 historically. Younger, way more technical. I asked about that directly.
The partner's read was the W26 didn't shift what they were looking for, it shifted who was demonstrating it convincingly. Founders coming out of Tesla or SpaceX with hard technical backgrounds, they show up with proof of what they can actually build.
So if S26 applications are being read against that comp set,
the bar for what counts as credible just got steeper.
Yeah, and the bio rewrites don't help.
No, the partner was pretty clear about that without me even mentioning our founder. They said something I keep thinking about. The application tells us what you think matters about yourself. If the answer to that is personal branding, we learn something important.
That's a kind way to put it.
Very kind. I pushed on whether there's a version of the rejected founder's application that gets through, and they didn't close the door. They said, show us the number moving, not the number sitting there.
Which is fixable.
According to YC's application page, the S26 deadline is July 27th. That's about 7 weeks from now.
So she has a clock.
They both do, honestly. One just has a demo day on the calendar already, September 10th, and the other has a window that closes in 7 weeks.
Two very different problems.
Same starting gun, though.
So the accepted founder wakes up inside YC with $500K from the standard deal, demo day circled on September 10th. What does week 1 actually look like?
Week 1 is a trap. You've got the money, you've got the credibility, and there are 100 things screaming for your attention. But the only thing that actually matters in week 1 is the same thing that got you in, your growth number.
Right, because according to Y Combinator's structure, that $125K goes in on a 7% post-money safe, the $375K on an uncapped MFN. You have the capital. The question is what you pointed at.
And the answer is almost always, don't change anything yet. You got in doing something. Figure out what made it work, then do more then, faster.
Every YC founder I've talked to says the batch compresses time in a way that's hard to describe until you're inside it. 14 weeks feels like maybe 4.
14 weeks that end on a stage in front of investors who just watched the W26 class. That's the comparison. That's the pressure.
Yeah, and that bar moved.
Now for the rejected founder, and this is the one I keep thinking about.
What's the number?
That's exactly it. According to Y Combinator's Fall 2026 application page, the on-time deadline for the next batch is July 27th. Decisions back by August 28th. That's the clock.
So roughly 90 days from now.
90 days to move one number, not 5, not a whole new story, one number. Users, revenue, shipped units. Pick the one that proves the business is real.
And that's hard to hear when the rejection is still fresh, because the instinct is to rewrite everything. New positioning, new bio.
Which is exactly what she did the last time. Yeah, the application doesn't need a better story. It needs a different number at the top of it.
So does she have a plan?
When we talked to her after the decision came in, she said she was still figuring that out.
Which could mean a lot of things.
It could. Or it could mean exactly what it sounds like. That the path forward is visible, but she hasn't stepped onto it yet.
And that's where we leave her.
That's where we leave her. 90 days, one number. Either she moves it or she doesn't.
The market doesn't wait for anyone to be ready.
No, it really doesn't.
All right, that's our episode. And honestly, the moment that's going to stick with me, 15 seconds of silence on that 2 a.m. phone call. Neither of them said anything. That's the whole story right there.
Yeah, and then the flip side, she's sitting alone in a Starbucks, and she went home and started rewriting the application the same day.
Both reactions make sense. That's what I keep coming back to. The decision separates people fast.
The one takeaway I'd leave anyone with, the application isn't about the words. It's about what your traction is actually saying.
Right.
One founder understood that. The other didn't. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. And with a small laugh, she's got roughly 90 days before the next deadline. We'll see.
If you know a YC founder in year one who tell their story honestly, send them our way, year1@heymotto.com. And if this episode hit, leave a review. It genuinely matters.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.